there. Please come in. You're right on time. The door only opens when the clock strikes midnight. Georgia and Hannah are preparing to broadcast from the belfry. Just like this old bell tower, they have many stories to tell. Some old and some new. Follow me up these stairs, but mind your step. Ah, they're waiting for you.
Recording in progress.
Recording in progress. Wearing my hoodie that my mom got me from Ashmore Estates.
Nice.
Did you read that book?
I'm not finished with it yet, but I'm reading it.
2025 is the year that for my bingo card, we're gonna do a legit ghost hunt ourselves, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Let me close this tab out. Whoa. I'm actually gonna go grab one more snack and pee.
I asked Shannon if he could heat the oven up to make me some chicken nugs.
Nuggies.
Special delivery of nugs. Okay.
Oh, also, Aubrey Plaza's husband died.
He sure did yesterday morning.
Oh. Everything I'm seeing is from today.
Yeah, it happened yesterday morning.
Okay.
He killed himself.
He did?
That's what it said, the report I read.
Move your booty. Move your booty. Okay. I forgot we had already started recording. Sorry.
When I went outside, Shannon was watching outside to the other room. Shannon was watching the Game Grumps Wind Waker playthrough.
Mm-hmm. The first one I ever watched.
He had been on a Mario Party kick, probably because my mom got me Mario Party for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So he was watching all of the Mario Party episodes, and I realized that the one thing I had ever seen from them before the summer is from one of the Mario Party episodes.
Oh, which one? The Scream?
No, it's when they are, because it was an animated, like, when they animate the like voice. But it was the Palpatine bit.
Yeah.
Screw it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That plays on repeat in my own head all the time.
Me too, and I didn't even really have a reference for it until last night, and I started, because I wasn't even paying attention. I think I was still working on my notes for this episode, and I just heard them start talking about Palpatine, and they started doing the voices and joking about it, and I was just like, this is it! This is it! This is it!
Oh my god, it's happening!
It's happening!
It's happening! Everybody calm down!
Got myself a nice crispy deep peppy.
Hell yeah. Got myself nice crispy gingy snaps.
I think something happened in me because after all this time, I'm like, I want deep peppy over Pepsi, and I don't know what's happening to me. Am I evolving?
Come here. Come on. Maybe.
Anyway, okay. Yeah, there might be a chicken nug delivery at some point, but I'm just gonna get started.
Come here, my love. Come on.
This was really hard to research because there's not actually a lot of like primary source material. But I did my best. Once upon a time, there were two men.
Only two?
And they kissed.
Kissed.
One of them was known as Micaiah, which is a name I had never heard of. Micajah, or
Nice.
H, as the Brits would say. Or Big. Micaiah or Big Harpe was his nickname. He was maybe born Joshua Harper in or before 1768, maybe. And the other was known as Wiley or Little Harpe, was maybe born as William Harper in or before 1770, maybe. Like I said. Surname variations are Harper, Harp with an E, and Harp with no E. So they're known as the Harpe Brothers, though they may have been cousins. And they may have been born in Scotland, or they may have been born in North Carolina. Shout out to episode 1, to Scottish parents. So, like I said, there are a few reliable records that detail their lives, and over time, fact and legend have become conflated. If they were brothers, then they were born in North Carolina, and if they were cousins, they probably emigrated from Scotland with their fathers, who were the brothers. Most sources go with them being cousins and there being two dads, so that's what I'm sticking with.
Two dads. Gay.
They kissed.
Yeah.
Many sources refer to them as the devil in Appalachia, the most cruel and bloodthirsty humans ever to live, and America's first serial killers.
Oh!
And this topic was requested by Shannon for the record. I don't know where he heard of it because it was really hard to find any information. So I did see a TV episode about it. I think the show is called Evil Kin. It's like an investigation discovery show. And I was like, maybe I should watch this. But then I colored in my Great British Bake Off coloring book instead.
I don't blame you.
Regardless of which way it was, records show that the dads may have served in Tory militias during the Revolutionary War. Nope. During the Regulatory War, before the Revolutionary War. In the late 1760s, when colonists in the Carolinas rebelled against British officials, like interfering with their like government of themselves.
Hell yeah.
Importantly, at this time, the Tories were, which like the Tory party is still a thing. That's like Britain's version of Republicans. The Tories were loyal to the king, so the Harper men were fighting against their fellow colonists. So they weren't very popular.
Oh.
When the Revolutionary War came around, they tried to join the Patriot Army, but they were denied for their previous loyalty to the crown. Which is fair, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure trust would be hard to build if you've already fought against the people who were rebelling. And now you're like, never mind, I want to switch sides.
Yeah, like, I want to save my skin.
So
I don't want to die.
Even their own neighbors were believed to treat them with hostility, and it was in this environment that Big and Little Harpe, Micaiah, and Wiley grew up in as children. Until one night when tensions had reached a climax and local revolutionaries attacked the Harper home, and the boys witnessed their parents, allegedly, only one source said this, being lynched. After which the boys fled into the woods and hid. And it's then believed that they were found by some members of a Cherokee band. I think it was Chickamauga Cherokee, who took them in. And so they kind of grew up with this band of Chickamauga. And this is where they allegedly learned to hunt, trap, forage, like survive off the land, and also how to steal allegedly livestock, raid properties, and kill.
Mm-hmm.
which, given everything we talked about in episode 1, not necessarily surprising. And it's because of this like history with their dads that they might have some resentment towards like a lot of people in general. Or that's like, I don't know, it feels like that's trying to apply modern insights to serial killers to this scenario, which is hard
Yeah.
because you can't really do that when you don't have the same like documents that would be used to make insights into serial killers today. But anyway, in the spring of 1775, the Harpe brothers headed to Virginia to work as overseers on a plantation.
Huh.
Gross.
Shocker.
Yeah. Until finally the Revolutionary War breaks out. So they're probably like, you know, young men at this point, like teenagers, like older teenagers maybe. Deep happy. And an account by Continental Army Captain James Wood, not that James Wood, states that the brothers join what was known as a rape gang of violent loyalists.
What's that even? Oh.
Yeah. Of violent loyalists, often criminals who took advantage of, like the chaos of war, beat, raped, stole, tortured, murdered, and burned their way through Patriot properties.
Okay.
Yeah. Like looters in riots, but worse.
Yeah.
They were also thought to have served as loyalist volunteers, so they acted as militia. They were a type of militia, but they didn't have British uniforms or get paid by the British Army or anything like that. And they made ends meet by hunting and foraging, thieving, and looting corpses on battlefields. The aforementioned Captain Woods, his son, who was a soldier in the Over Mountain Men frontier group, claimed to have seen the brothers in this militia at the Battle of Kings Mountain and the Battle of Blackstocks, which sounds like a Game of Thrones thing.
Yeah.
Those were both in 1780, and then also the Battle of Cowpens in 1781.
Oh, I like that better.
Cowpens.
That
Yeah.
sounds more English than anything.
However, after the British defeat at Yorktown, which we were also just there,
Uh-huh.
did I tell you that I told you that I found out Larry is from Newport News?
Oh yeah, you did.
I was like,
Crazy.
oh my God.
You were just there.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I was like, I loved it out over there. It was great. Yeah, so British defeat at Yorktown in 1781. The Harpes bounced and followed their Chickamauga Cherokee friends to Tennessee, to an area known as Nickajack near Chattanooga, where they ended up doing things like joining war parties to attack the settlement at Fort Nashborough, which is now Nashville. And apparently, the following year, they also joined a war party which defeated Daniel Boone, whose grave I saw in Frankfurt, and it was gross. It had like really terrible depictions of Native Americans on it. So,
Oh God.
yeah, I didn't even take a picture of it. I was like, oh, this is gross.
Well, fuck Daniel Boone anyway.
Yeah, and that was at the Battle of Blue Licks. Blue Licks.
Blue leg?
Blue Licks. Blue Leg and his blue licks. uh Anyway, they were believed to live outside the Noog, as we call it, or the Boog, as we also call it.
The Boog.
For 12 or 13 years, and during this time, they were said to have kidnapped two women, Mariah Davidson, whose alias was Betsy Roberts, and Susan Wood, whose alias was Susan Roberts. And they also used the Susan name themselves. They did not. They used the Roberts surname themselves, some believe, as a way to hide their loyalist leanings because Harper was supposed to be a common name amongst Tories and Loyalists in that area. So
Mm-hmm.
it was like an easy way to identify them as being traitors to America. Um, in 1794, they leave Nickajack with their wives, and little is known about what they're up to until 1797, when little Wiley shows up in the marriage records of Knox County for marrying Sarah Rice. Some sources say that despite his marriage being legit and big, getting salty and marrying Susan, quote unquote, shortly after, that both men shared all three women.
Gross.
Yeah.
Hate it.
Yeah. It's also in 1797 when they start their actual criminal rampage, which covered Tennessee, Kentucky, and Illinois. It seems like it all began when they were driven out of the Knoxville area after being accused of stealing pigs and horses. But they also murdered a man referenced only as Johnson. After he left a drinking establishment, they disemboweled him and filled his torso with rocks.
Filled it? They took his guts out and replaced it with rocks?
Yeah. And then threw his corpse in the river so it would sink.
Okay.
Which was kind of like a signature thing that they did a lot.
Mm.
I don't necessarily say that they do that every time, but a lot of people they kill, they disembowel, fill with rocks, and toss them in the river. So they were like, okay, let's go to Kentucky. So they headed to Kentucky via the Wilderness Road, which sounds like it followed the Cumberland Gap. Unclear. Along the way, they murdered and robbed a man known as Peyton. Then two men traveling from Maryland, and then when a Stephen Langford, who was known to be traveling from Virginia to Kentucky, turned up dead, an innkeeper pointed authorities to the Harpes as the brothers had persuaded Langford to travel with them for his safety. LOL. They were like, yo, it's safer if we all travel together. Come with us. And he was like, okay. But really, they had just seen him pay for stuff at the inn, and they were like, this guy has money. So they robbed him and murdered him.
Sure did.
And his body was found a couple days later. On Christmas Day, 1797, nope, 1798, a posse, the word posse came up so much in my research, which is so funny.
That.
A posse
I love that.
captured the brothers and their wives. The brothers escaped jail shortly after and left the three women there. The women were tried and acquitted in April of 1799, but in the meantime, while awaiting their trial, all three of them gave birth in jail.
Bruh.
The community members were like, man, these women have it rough. So they essentially donated a bunch of stuff to them, like money and clothes and, whatever, provisions.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, go back to Knoxville. Here, take all this. Here's some horses. Go back to Knoxville.
Here's some horses. You will like them. They are nice.
This one's named Princess, and this one's named Lady. Bill.
Yeah.
Bill's a pony.
Yeah, I know.
So they set out, presumably with their children, also unclear. But after around 30 miles, they changed direction, traded their horses out for like a canoe or something, and then headed back in the opposite direction. Apparently, it seemed like they had all these different like contingency plans. So like if this happens, we meet up here. If this happens, we meet up here. Like they had it all really well thought out. It didn't necessarily seemed like they wanted to be with the brothers, you know? Like I said, two of them were actually kidnapped.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like they didn't really take part in the crimes or anything, but they also never tried to run away, and a lot of people have speculated that it's because if they did run away, the brothers would just hunt them down anyway and probably murder them or find their families and murder them. So like they kind of stayed around and did what they were told to keep their families safe and to like stay alive.
They're probably safer in jail,
Yeah, and
low key.
excuse me, um some people were like, "Oh, they must have had Stockholm syndrome," which like I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts about Stockholm syndrome, which is probably a whole different story, but Belle did not have Stockholm syndrome. I've said this multiple times. Also, the story of why it's called Stockholm syndrome, like the bank robbery that led to it in Stockholm, is fascinating. Um, and I really don't think that like it's not important. Long story short, the people who were in the bank being held hostage, it's not that they were like, no, we like our captives. It's like the people holding them hostage weren't actually doing anything to hurt them, and the cops were so incompetent in negotiating that they were safer in the bank being held hostage than they, you know.
That's insane.
Yeah. So I really don't think yeah. Anyway, I have a lot of feelings about Stockholm syndrome. Anyway, so they headed north into Illinois, a place called Cave in Rock. This is like down south. Obviously, it's near Kentucky.
Is it
Um,
cave in rock because there's a cave in a rock, or is it because it's caved in?
it's a cave in a rock. Yeah,
Oh my god. Okay.
like cave hyphen in hyphen rock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So I mean, I don't know for sure, but I interpreted it as a cave in a rock.
Yeah.
Because I think if it was cave in, it would only have the one hyphen.
Right. You're right.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Anyway,
hate that so much. It's
such
not a
a
good
dumb name.
name.
But this is where infamous outlaw Samuel Mason had a base with his river pirates.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's
This
where they,
posse of river.
yeah, his posse of river pirates. So they were like, we're gonna go be river pirates with this guy and his gang because this sounds like a life for us. Meanwhile, Kentucky's governor issued a $300 bounty for each brother. And this is where I have some descriptions of the men for you.
Oh.
Micaiah Harpe, alias Roberts, is about 6 feet high, which is normal today, but at the time was pretty,
Just
pretty,
tall.
pretty tall. Yeah. Um, 6 feet high, of robust make, and is about 30 or 32 years of age. He has an ill-looking, downcast countenance, and his hair is black and short, but comes very much down his forehead,
Okay.
which I think it meant the length of the hair, but I just imagine that his hair grows like from his
Oh.
eyebrows. Like,
Ew.
um, he is built very straight and is full-fleshed in the face. When he went away, he had on a striped nankeen coat. I don't know what that means. Dark blue woolen stockings, legging leggings, not
Leggings.
leggings,
Cute.
leggings, no G, leggings of drab cloth and trousers of the same as the coat. Wiley Harpe, alias Roberts, is very meager in his face, has short black hair, but not quite so curly as his brothers. He looks older, though really younger, and has likewise a downcast countenance. He had on a coat of the same stuff as his brothers and had a surt out, also don't know what that is, a surt out coat over the close-bodied one. His stockings are dark woolen ones, and his leggings are of drab cloth. Call the fashion police. Can we talk about their outfits being drab anymore?
Terrible.
God
Absolutely
damn.
terrible. I
So
was trying so hard to picture them, but I cannot picture anything in
I
my head,
know.
so I struggled. I really did.
On their way to Cave in Rock, they are believed to have killed at least 6 more people. One of them was just a 13-year-old boy. When they
Oh,
finally got there, you just wait.
oh,
When they finally got there, the Mason gang were like, these guys are fucking nuts. The gang would capture boats on the Ohio River, and the Hart brothers made a habit out of.
holy shit.
Thank you.
That's also scared me.
The drawer just swinging open.
Yeah.
Chicken nugget delivery. The Hart brothers made a habit out of taking the captives blindfolded and naked to the top of the bluff and then pushing them off the 100-foot drop to kill them. Yeah, that's mean.
Yeah.
Samuel Mason was like, y'all gotta go. You can't sit with us. So they left. Like, you're too crazy for river pirates. You need to see a therapist.
For real.
So they headed back to Knoxville, which seems stupid since they already got kicked out of that area. But whatever. At least 11 more murders soon followed, including 4 children. One of them was a young boy they murdered just to steal his rifle. One was with his brother, and so the Harpe brothers were like, hey, do you want to help us find the evil Harpe brothers for the bounty? And the other brothers were like, yeah, okay. So they went out into the woods together, and then the Harpe brothers were like, you guys are the Harpe brothers, and tried to like tie him up and stuff. One of them escaped and ran into some other people on the road and asked them for help, but by the time they got back to the scene, his brother's throat had been cut.
Those brothers, they are smart. I gotta say, they're good at playing on dumb people.
Yeah, or just like pe especially in this time when people were generally willing to like help other people.
Yeah.
One was a young boy whose head they just smashed against a tree. One was a young girl picking berries. They decapitated her and even cut off one of her legs and all the toes on one of her
Oh,
feet.
the
One,
toes.
like why?
What the hell?
Like a little snack? I don't know.
Ew.
Um, After all of that, they met the Trissard family. I'm not really sure. It's spelled Trisword, but that cannot be how it's pronounced.
Shit, I don't know.
Um, there was at least 10 people in the family at a camp, and they were later found, quote, stripped, mangled, and hopelessly disfigured.
I can only imagine what that means.
And then, this shit is bad. Big Harp, Micaiah, smashed his infant daughter's head against a tree because she cried.
That's sad.
He said, it cried and I killed it. I had always told the women I would have no crying about me. Yeah. Unfortunately, several sources say that the brothers killed several of their own children, but I'll come back to this later. Big Harp was reported as saying that was the only one he truly regretted.
Oh. Okay.
Was it? I
think
find
so.
I find that hard to believe. Anyway, they soon found themselves at the Stiegel
Steven Seagal.
Stiegel the T the Stiegel home in Webster County, Kentucky. They may have been pretending to be Methodist ministers, but I also may be conflating that with something else.
Hmm.
Anyway, like I just said, people generally helped other people, and at the time it wasn't uncommon for people to put up like strangers in their homes when they're traveling. Um, so Moses Stegall wasn't home, but his wife was. And there was also a guy staying there named Major William Love. Major Love.
Major Bill Love.
Major Willie Love.
Uh,
Major Willie Love.
Good for him.
Good thing his name wasn't Richard.
That would have been good.
He was a surveyor there on business. So, Mrs. Stigall has the three men sleeping up in the loft. Unfortunately, Major Love was snoring, and the Harps didn't like that. So they smashed his head in with an axe. And in the morning, Mrs. Steagall's infant son was crying in the morning, so they slit his throat. But Mrs. Stigall saw them and screamed, so they killed her too. And then they set the house on fire and carried on with a few other murders along the way. But Moses Stiegel came home and he was like, time to form a posse and do some vigilante shit.
Posse.
A posse and vigilante justice. It's too good to be true.
What could be better?
So that's what he did. He formed a posse. To be fair, part of this was because law enforcement was like really far away. One, there weren't that many, you know, law
Hmm.
enforcement officers. Two, they were out in the country in the boonies, so like they would
Yeah.
probably have to come from the city or like the main nearest town, and that would have been kind of far away. So it would have taken them a while to show up. And he was just like, "Nope, I'll just handle it myself."
Mm-hmm.
So once they caught up with the bros, Mikhail was shot in the leg, which prevented him from escaping. And then Moses slowly cut off his head while he was still conscious. And his alleged
Slay.
last words were, "You're a goddamn rough butcher, but cut on and be damned." Yeah,
Big
just
words coming from somebody who really fucks some people's shit up.
just keep cutting my head off. It's fine.
Yeah.
And then, shout out to episode 1, Moses put his head on a spike.
Wow.
Wiley, though, he went back to the Mason gang under the alias of John Sutton, which, like, one, did they not recognize him? Two, was Micaiah, like, the really, really bad one? If he got away, like, I don't know.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
it kind of sounds maybe that way, especially because he was the older one and the bigger one, so. Anyway, a bunch of the gang members got captured, but both Wiley and Samuel Mason, the leader, escaped. But then Mason was shot and died, maybe in the escape. People aren't really sure. Like some people theorize that maybe Wiley actually killed him too, but it kind of seems like he got shot in the escape and then like died afterwards. Um, and so Wiley and another gang member, who, according to Wikipedia, used the alias James May, which is funny to me because of Top Gear. And I'm just picturing James May from Top Gear,
Oh my God.
uh, who is the biggest pansy in the entire world.
Yeah.
And I love him, and he reminds me of my dad. Anyway, they decided to try and claim the bounty on Mason, so they took his head, but they were recognized and arrested. And they escaped again and were recaptured. Like, you have to give them credit for their perseverance, I guess. Like, how many times did they escape?
Guess.
Um,
After all of the shit that they had done,
yeah.
still not caught.
But after they were recaptured, they were like, all right, let's just put them on trial now so they don't pull this shit again. And they were sentenced to a speedy hanging, and both of their heads were cut off and also put on spikes along the Natchez Trace. Natchez.
Yeah.
And their wives were once again acquitted after Micaiah's death, and they went on to live respectable and normal lives, and they all remarried, hopefully normal guys.
I hope so.
I hope so. So like that's the story, which like is not really that much, but like I said, there's not really a whole lot of information out there. But I did find a few fun things like quotes and paragraphs and stuff in a document that was like a compilation from like newspapers and random stuff that it kind of looks like they had compiled for like genealogy purposes or something.
I love that.
It's just like a PDF that I came across. The first thing on there is just a picture of the historical marker that is near Dixon, Kentucky, in Webster County, on alternate route US 41, 1 mile south of State Route 56, on the right when you're traveling south. It was erected in 1967 by the Kentucky Historical Society and the Kentucky Department of Highways, and it just says, Frontier Justice. Big Harp's head displayed here as warning to outlaws about 1800. Mother and child murdered in cabin west of Dixon by Big Micaiah and Little Wiley Harpe, who were then pursued to Muhlenberg County, where Big Harpe was shot. His head was brought here at that time a crossroad. Harpes and wives roamed KY, Kentucky, in 1798-99 on crime spree. Little Harpe was executed in later. Mississippi, obviously.
Yep. Wow.
Yeah.
Also, thank you for the MapQuest directions.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
That was the caption under the picture. Like all the travel information and everything. On the right when traveling south. So that area is known now as Harpe's Head, which is fucked up.
I think it's fitting.
Yeah, it is fitting. So then there was a 1927 article from a newspaper about the road, which was pretty quirky. This headline said, Historic road where bandit's head was impaled on tree is wiped out. Madisonville, Kentucky, December 28th. A Kentucky road. I can't do it.
Bruh, what is happening right now?
I was gonna do a radio voice, but I can't do it.
Oh, okay.
Like a Kentucky road once distinguished from other mud road, like a 1920s. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Ow. Once distinguished from other mud roads because it wound through the hills and woods of this part of the state like a trail of blood, has just become a civilized highway at last. Concrete has wiped out the bloody trail in the mud. With the last mud gap in the Dixie Beeline Highway, north and south route from Canada to Florida through the Middle West paved, it marks the completion of improvements necessary to make the Transcontinental Trail a year-round highway. But to the natives of Hopkins and Webster counties, in western Kentucky, steeped in the legend and folklore of the bloody reign of terror which occurred about the year 1800, it has a greater significance than a mere completion of U.S. Highway 41. It means the erasure from the map of a name that can make the blood chill, the Harpe's Head Road. Spot is marked. For just down to the east of Dixon is a crude stone monument, which marks the spot where once stood a tree shorn of its branches and sharpened at the top, that it might hold the skull of a human being. That being was Big Harpe, leader of a band of murderers. Harpe's head on that tree in full view of those who passed along the road, bleached in the sun for many years as a warning to those who would follow his bloody footsteps, and as an ensign of victory hoisted by a terror-stricken populace, which at last got the upper hand.
My God. That's a
That's like
poet.
the most dramatic thing.
That's so dramatic. I love it.
Okay, and this is the last one. I liked this one. This one's from 1999. Serial killer's nothing new in Kentucky. State's first plagued region 200 years ago. As he lay dying on a Muhlenberg County hillside 200 years ago this month, one of Kentucky's first serial killers had only one regret. He had left a trail of 30 to 40 bodies, maybe more, across the Kentucky and Tennessee frontier, and for that he expressed no sorrow. But the man they called Big Harpe wished he hadn't swung his baby by the heels and bashed its head against a tree. It cried, he explained to the posse that surrounded him, listening to his dying words, and I killed it. I always told the women I would have no crying about me. Bob Purdy, a retired Owensboro policeman who teaches law enforcement at Owensboro Community College, says this month's bicentennial marking the end of the Harpe Brothers' reign of terror is important. They were Kentucky's first serial killers, and it's unique to study them as such, he said last week. These days, we look for simple answers to violence. Too much violence on TV. Parental inattention. Too many guns. But what we're experiencing today is not new. We've always had an aberrant element in society. People like the Harpes. The Harpes may have been brothers named Micaiah and Wiley, or they may have been cousins named William and Joshua. Historians are divided on their relationship and even their first names, but they agree that Big Harpe and Little Harpe created terror on the American frontier from 1978 to 1798 to 1799. The end.
God damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are fascinating.
Yeah.
And they should be learned about. It's freaking scary.
Yeah.
I see why Shannon wanted to hear about this. I mean, he probably already knows, but whatever.
I also just think it's like, I just think it's interesting to throw in stuff like this because I don't know, like we know that that was a hard time in history, especially like here in the colonies. Blech. But like when we talk about this period of history, we're usually talking about the founding fathers and to hear what's going on outside of that, which is crazy dark and fucked up, sorry mom, is yeah, I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah. Remember in the Vitala episode, I gave that like cute little timeline that's like, well, this was happening. All of these other things were happening. It just reminds me that,
yeah,
you know,
like in Britain, Mary Shelley was a child and
there's a revolution in France.
American history is fucked up. The end.
Dude, tell me about it, dude. It's crazy. So fricked up, dude.
Yep, that's what I got.
Well, thank you for sharing. That was fascinating. If you know, it was gross and sad, but it was fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of, I mean, like I said, it was kind of hard to research because there was really not that much out there. And I just had to say, allegedly, it may have. And some people think a lot.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
I mean, it's kind of one of those things where all of the primary sources that we do have are from those upper class, you know, the people in the upper class who are forming society in a roundabout way. And we don't really have the primary sources from these like the lower class people who don't really matter, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not gonna have those sources. Are you kidding?
Yeah. And these people didn't really live in society either, obviously. Like, they're living in the woods and
They're woods people. They're mountain people.
they're
They're
they're like Appalachia boogeymen, it kind of sounds like.
yeah.
Like, I could see why that could easily become a folk tale, like, to scare
Yeah.
your kids, you know? Like how we talked about the Rougarou in Louisiana, like
Mm-hmm.
if you don't behave, the Rougarou will get. If you don't behave, the Harpe Brothers are gonna get you.
And La Llorona
Yeah.
in California.
If you wander too far into the woods, the Harpe Brothers are gonna get you,
Mm-hmm.
or the ghost of the Harpe, you know, whatever. Like it
Yeah.
could so easily become one of those folktales. Anyway, okay,
Okay.
the end.
Bye. Mwah.
Kiss your dad and your mom and everyone.
Oh, okay.
Just kidding, that's incest.
Oh.
Just oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were gonna say something else.
No.
Okay.
I'm
Oh.
sure how to respond to that.
Oh, I didn't know that was incest. That's the kind of oh it sounded like.
Oh. I was going for more of like a
Well, that concludes this week's broadcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you wish to stay in touch, reach out to us at broadcastfromthebelfry@gmail.com or stalk us on Instagram at broadcastfromthebelfry. Again, I hope you've enjoyed our little show. Please rate and review. And until next week, stay